Everybody, welcome to Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, along with my co-host, co-commander, wing lady, Leanne Whippen. And today, of course, we're doing a 4th of July special. So who else could do that with us but Meathead from Amazing Ribs, two Hall of Famers, as we like to say on the show. Um,
That's very cool, you
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef for supporting the show over the years. We appreciate that very much. Anyway, welcome everybody, and happy 4th of July in a few days.
Yeah. Where did June go?
I think I don't know. It just
Yeah,
kind of vaporized.
I was having the same thing this morning. I mean, where did June go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It is. Well, the whole year has actually gone by pretty quickly. So, as usual, into this show, I have a few stats. I'm not going to bore people with it, other than the fact of Calvin Coolidge was the only president that was actually born on the 4th of July. So,
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So there's a
interesting.
And
little,
George M. Cohan.
really,
Yeah, well, don't you remember? I'm a Yankee Doodle
doodle dandy.
Dandy,
Yeah.
born on the
Ah,
4th of July.
There's our tease for the show.
oh,
Meathead sings.
No,
yeah.
God. You know, the joke, I couldn't carry a tune in a paper bag. I'm terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. What? So let's start this instead of just jumping into to hot dogs and burgers and ribs and all that stuff. What does the 4th of July mean to you, and what's your favorite part of it? Let's start with you, Meathead.
Well, you know, I mean, I think we should, and all of us would talk about the underlying meaning that it was the event that commemorates the foundation of our great country. And it's a time I think that well, it's a good time to think about how the country could be better. But I think that almost every day now. And,
Right.
but it has obviously evolved into a family event. And of course, if you want to talk about 4th of July, why not talk about the importance of the family in this country? We
Yes.
host a 4th of July party at our house. It's the one event we hold for the family. My wife's family is here. I have a sister in Florida, but she has two brothers, and they have a bunch of kids, and the kids have kids, and it's a big Italian American family, and I get most of the grills cranked up, and we whoop up a feast, and hopefully it's not too hot, and it's a great time to catch up with them. We've got kids going off to college. What are you studying? It's just, it's a family event more than anything for me.
That's good. Leanne?
Yeah, totally. So I was raised on a lake in New Jersey, and the big thing, of course, was to go out on the boats and watch the fireworks. And I was a Lake Mohawk ski hawk, so we had our big water ski show, and it was all family, and the lawns would meet up with with the lake, so we would convene at one particular house every year. And I just remember all the kids running around and just having a great time. I agree. It was cooking out, just grab and go food kind of. It wasn't like everybody sat down, but everybody was just enjoying the time. And it still is. It's not as fun as when I was a kid. For sure. But I think more now I think of it, as us as a country, and thinking about it more in that terms than just a party, you know?
I grew up on a ranch, and we had you've heard me speak of it before. We called it a creek, but most people would call it a river because it was wide enough. But we would spend the whole 4th of July weekend, as it were, down there. Um, and people would come bring their horses. It was a fairly big area, and my dad would take them on trail rides, and we'd have these big feasts. And I remember my mom cooking pies for like 2 or 3 days ahead of time, and she would make these fresh loaves of bread, and there were grills, and there were built permanently stationed grills down there that they could cook on, and lots of chicken and lots of hamburgers, and it was always a great time. Kids would be in the crick from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then when you did that all day, you were really tired, so you slept like a rock
Mhm.
all night like that. But we would have fireworks and all that, and I think to me too, it's about the country, and you know, maybe for one day, every once in a while, we can put our political differences aside and celebrate the country and celebrate family and friends. Anyway, that's my
Yeah.
thoughts. I'm not Calvin Coolidge may have thought the same thing. Hell, I don't know. Anyway, what's your favorite thing to eat on 4th of July, Leanne?
Hot dogs.
I love hot dogs. I tell you, all, what do they call them? Death dogs or coffin nails or whatever.
Yeah.
I just love the flavor. I mean, aside from the fact that they're easy to eat, and I often eat them naked. No, I mean the hot dog's naked, not me. Um,
Whew, that scared me for a minute.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in Chicago, we have 7 required ingredients. Here in Chicago, there are more hot dog stands than there are McDonald's and Burger King and hamburger joints. It's sort of the local food, and it's illegal to put ketchup on them.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Right.
I don't know why or how. On AmazingRibs.com, my website, I wrote a whole article about this, about why people take that position. And there's great movie clips. There's a Clint Eastwood clip where he says, you got to be an idiot to put ketchup on a hot dog and stuff like that. And it's done with tongue deeply embedded in cheek. But I'll tell you, it draws so many vicious. I'll put whatever I want on my hot dog, you damn Nazi. And it's like, oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah. So I have a theory. If you put ketchup on a hot dog, it robs you of your sense of humor.
Yes. I think that's good. That's kind of a Darwinian theory there,
Yeah.
Meathead. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my hot dog favorites are well, I love Polies, as you call
Oh,
them, I guess,
yeah, me too.
you know, and I'll eat the kielbasa's and all the other stuff, but I really love a good Polish dog. And the way Leanne has it in her background picture
Yeah,
there,
that's the way I like it. But
that's just,
I do like a Chicago dog. I miss the dogs up there with the sport
Yes.
peppers and the green relish and
Yeah, you
char
used to live here,
dogs.
so that you got
Yeah,
into it.
I loved it.
Yeah. But I'm
speaking
with
of,
you. I love the Polies.
Hmm.
yeah,
We don't call them a Poli dog or anything. It's a Polish sausage.
right.
I
Hmm.
mean, it's based on a Polish kielbasa, but it's different. I guess of what I've learned, I think is true, is that the word kielbasa applies to all sausages in Poland. It's not a particular type, but here in the States, I think it's applied to the Polish sausage or a smoked sausage of some sort. I'm not sure, but I've had them across the country. Hot dogs generally across the country vary slightly. There's little differences depending on the manufacturer. But Polies vary vastly across the country. I don't know what they're like up by you in Oregon, but I had one not too long ago in D.C. and it didn't taste anything like a Polie here in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. I found some of the best Polies locally to be made by the independent meat markets, not the
Always.
mass package deal, you know.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Hot dogs and sausages are almost always local. Even in small towns, there's a butcher somewhere or a meat processor who makes a hot dog, and it's the local hot dog. Everybody eats it. It's Vienna beef here in Chicago.
Hmm.
Um, I can't remember all the names, but Detroit, you're going to be in Detroit. Detroit has its
Yeah.
own brand of hot dogs that everybody swears by. In fact, are you aware there's 2 hot dog joints downtown side by side? And
It's like
they're
Philly and the
they
cheesesteak wars.
yeah, this is a hot dog war for these guys. And I'll see if I can find the info and pass it
Yeah, I
on
would
to you.
love to know.
Yeah, that's okay. So before we go to break, we got about 2 minutes here. Meathead, you and I spoke about this earlier, I think in a previous show. Green relish, red relish. I happen to like them both. I actually happen to like red relish on my hamburgers, green relish on my polies or my dogs. Where do you stand?
Green relish. I mean, I'm in Chicago.
Right.
You have no choice. I walked into a hot dog joint once, and I bought a hot dog and fries, and I wanted ketchup on the fries. Now, I normally don't. I normally eat the fries naked also, but I wanted ketchup for this time. And I asked the guy at the counter, "Where's the ketchup?" And he thought I was going to put it on the hot dog. And they had a big old pump on the counter off to the side for their French fries. And he looked at me and said, "It's over there. Go ruin the hot dog yourself." He wouldn't do it.
Leanne, where do you stand on that?
Definitely green.
Yeah. You don't care for red?
No.
No,
I don't like I'm not a ketchup girl. I eat my fries no ketchup. I don't like ketchup on eggs. I'm not a huge ketchup fan. Meatloaf maybe, but that's about
I'll
it.
put ketchup on a hamburger.
Yeah.
If it's mixed with mustard.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
if I can put in a little plug, I have a recipe on my website called Hamburger Glop. And anybody listening to this, go to amazingribs.com, put Hamburger Glop in the search box. It's a really good hamburger sauce, but it's pretty similar to what everybody else is doing. You know, the McDonald's secret sauce. It's ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise. Excuse me. It's not ketchup. It's barbecue sauce,
Oh.
mustard, mayonnaise, a little hot sauce, and that little barbecue sauce takes it up a notch, especially if it's got a little liquid smoke in it.
There you go. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with the 4th of July special. And we're going to talk more to Meathead about his naked eating right after this on Barbecue Nation. Welcome back to Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, along with Meathead from Amazing Ribs, and of course, my all-time favorite co-host in the world. And
You're
yes,
only.
I've had a few in my career, but you're
Oh,
my
I did not
favorite.
know that.
Okay, Leanne Weapon, both of them Hall of Famers. You can follow us on Facebook and X or Twitter. And Leanne's big on Instagram. We're out there, and of course, so is Meathead. He's always dropping little nuggets and jewels out there, and I love the way sometimes he pokes the bear on those things. I do like that.
Hey, speaking of the bear, he's back.
Who?
The TV show, The Bear.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Okay.
He's back. We're taping this just before the first show of the season, but I really like that series, and it starts this week, so I'm ready for it.
You're ready? Okay.
It's on my calendar.
Okay. So let's talk about food here in this one. Of course, that's what the show is all about, but we talked about burgers and dogs, Polies, my fave, Meathead's fave, and all that. But ribs,
Ribs.
amazing ribs, Leanne's ribs, my ribs, everybody's ribs, love ribs. Uh, Quick tips, Meathead, on getting your ribs ready for the 4th.
Well, first is background. I mean, for me, many holidays have a specific food. Thanksgiving is turkey. Christmas for me, it's a beef roast. You know, ham
Right.
for Easter. And for me, 4th of July is ribs. I will put hot dogs on there, and I will eat one. I'll put hamburgers on there, and I'll put chicken on there. I'll try to satisfy all my guests. But ribs, I think, are the food of the holiday. And they're just so much fun. I mean, they're meat on a stick. You eat it with your hands. You don't care if you get it all over your face. If it gets in your mustache, you get to smell the barbecue sauce for hours. So the key to making good ribs, and I think both of you will agree with me here, we may have some minor differences, is that now you got to think about your rib cage. Your rib cage starts, with your sternum at your chest, and it wraps all the way around to the backbone. In fact, the rib bone's attached to the backbone, and the different sections of the rib are a little different, but they have one thing in common, and that is their job is to protect your vital organs. Their job is to protect the heart, the liver, the stomach, the lungs. And so they have to be tough. Now they have a little flex so that, if you catch if you're playing football, you can take an impact. But between the bones, there's a lot of connective tissue and fat in addition to the meat. And so it's not diet food. You don't eat it every day. But that connective tissue, when it melts, becomes really rich and succulent. And the fat, when it renders, becomes really rich and succulent. And the meat is very tasty. So, in addition to being fun to eat, there's just a lot of flavor there. And to get the most out of them, I think you have to cook them low and slow in order to render the fat and melt the connective tissues and cook the meat thoroughly. You just have to dial it back. I cook it at 225. I know some folks go 275, 250. 225 is my magic temperature. I just let it go. Take its time. There are different cuts of ribs. If you go to the store, there's baby backs. Now, they are back ribs. They attach to the spine, and they have a curve. They look like a hockey stick. And then there's spare ribs, and they take up on the side where the baby backs end and wrap all the way around to the chest. And they have the meat mostly between the bones, where the baby backs have the meat mostly on top of the bones. The baby back meat is a little leaner because it comes off of the muscle that makes the loin muscle on the back. That's where you get most of your pork chops. So you've got pork chop meat sitting on top of the baby backs. There's not a lot of meat on the chest section, the spare ribs section, because if you feel your own ribs, there's just not a lot of meat on top of it.
Speak for yourself.
And then if you take the spare ribs, a lot of cooks will square them up by cutting off the rib tips, which are kind of gnarly and they go in different directions, and they're very flexible. They'll cut off the tip of the ribs, which come from the front, the chest, and they just take the side ribs, and they're sometimes called St. Louis cut, or I prefer center cut. But they're straighter than the back ribs. They lay flatter, and there's not as much meat on top. Most of the meat's in between. They take a little longer to cook because there's more connective tissue, but it comes down to your preference. I occasionally hear people go to a restaurant and say, "I ordered the ribs and they were just too fatty." No, they're all going to be fatty. That's what you get, I mean, don't complain about ribs being fatty. That's part of the pleasure.
Yeah, well, it's that's anatomically correct ribs. I'll put it that way. At that, Leanne, you're a rib gal, I know.
Yeah, and I prefer St. Louis because of the fat over baby backs
Me too.
by far. And I love rib tips.
Yep.
I used to serve them in the restaurant.
Yep.
I like those gnarly little pieces.
Yeah, they're kind of weird because you bite into them and then you got this little 2-inch section of
but
and you got to roll them around on your tongue to get the meat off of them.
Yeah.
We have a store here. I'm sorry, Leanne, go ahead.
No, but that's pretty much where I stand on ribs. I mean, I'll eat a baby back, and I like my ribs dry, just with a dry rub. I'm not a saucy girl.
All right. Well, you don't. When just to clarify, when you say dry, you don't mean the meat being dry. You mean
no, like
there's
dry
ribs, which
no
are
sauce.
just
Right.
have a rub on them.
I like it with just salt and pepper sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texas style.
Yeah.
We have a store here. Of course, I live in a very largely populated Hispanic area, and you can go into the store and you can buy the strips of the rib tips. and I think it's very inexpensive actually. They'll have them on for 2.29 a pound or something, but you can go in and if you buy 10 pounds of those rib tips, you can feed a lot of people.
Hmm.
And it's to me, I do those like at Super Bowl, or if we're just knocking around on the on the back porch, small gathering of people like that. Because like you were saying earlier, it's kind of a grab and go type finger food
It's
with
also
them.
great for the person working the grill because they can eat that while they're cooking the
Yes,
ribs.
they can. Yes, they
Because they cook faster.
And nobody will know.
Nobody will know. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Meathead and Leanne here on Barbecue Nation right after this. Stay with us. Thank you. Welcome back to the nation. I'm JT, along with my co-commander here, Leanne Whippen, Hall of Famer, and Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. We want to give a shout out to Leanne's Pig Powder in this section of the show, like we always do. You've got the 4th of July coming up. If you're going to do ribs, or you can use it on anything. Uh,
Excellent on
the,
ribs. I mean, I've won a
yeah,
lot of first places with pig powder. And a
I
lot of
I
people like to do a pork butt on, for
yeah.
pork sandwiches on 4th of July.
I sprinkled them on some salmon that I slow smoked,
Oh,
and they were very good.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it is. It's very versatile, sweet with a little heat. A spicier one is coming out, and I'll post that on my social. But yeah, one best rub on the planet, and it's a survivor rub. I mean, there's a lot of rubs out there these days, but it's been around for years and it's tried and true, and a lot of the competitors still use it to this day. So go to
Yep.
pigpowder.com.
Absolutely. So I
Is
wanted to
it
talk.
still the same blend that your daddy invented?
Exactly, same manufacturer, the whole, yeah. The only thing that's changing on this new batch will be the label, and it's just more of a facelift, but still trim tabs pig powder.
It needed that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's all good.
Mhm.
So I want to talk about sides. And because we have the world champion potato salad queen
Oh
it's
yeah.
sitting here, I actually look forward to uh, the 4th because of the sides. Everybody has their mom's recipe or a recipe they created about things like potato salad or mac salad, what have you. And I like the sides. Not that I don't like the proteins and all that. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But the point is, I love to taste people's potato salads. I like to try their mac salads, or if they have some sort of other crunchy vegetable salad, whatever. I always really enjoy that. Now, Leanne, I know you're not going to share your recipe for your world championship potato salad, but
No,
what are things people should be paying attention to when they're preparing their potato salad?
I
Uh,
don't like a deli, like that deli flavored potato salad. I'm a Hellman's Best Foods mayonnaise girl.
there you go.
I also think it's important to drain your potatoes well so they don't have a lot of water in them. Um, and like Yukon Golds, I feel are too starchy. I'll use a red though, and russets, and it's up to you if you want to peel them, but I think they should be peeled. I think two of the most important ingredients to add are hard cooked eggs and bacon. And always a hint of vinegar because that kicks it up. And if you're making it a day ahead, taste it the next day because it absorbs the salt and a lot of the spices. So you know have to adjust your seasonings the next day.
I like a
Albeit
little scoop of pickle relish in mine.
my mom likes that too. Yeah.
My mom made her potato salad, um, and she always had green onions in it. Not a lot,
Mhm.
just enough.
Mhm.
She also put diced up radishes in it, which
Mm.
I'm a radish guy, okay?
I
Ooh,
Because
would like
ooh.
that. That would give it a little spiciness too.
little kick to it. So she
Hmm.
had those things, and she had the potatoes and the base. Of course, we're best foods people out here. We don't get Hellman's much. Same stuff, but
Right.
like that. But she made that, and the other thing was, and I think to your point of a manufactured salad that you get out of a deli,
Uh-huh.
her potatoes always still had I don't want to say a crunch to it, but they weren't mushy.
Yeah,
when
you
you
have
ate.
to, that's the critical thing about potato salad. There is just a small window of time when those potatoes are perfect.
Yeah,
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 so
and I always love that, and
How do
um,
you tell when they're perfect?
I stick a fork in them, and if the fork comes out rather easily, but if you stick a fork in it and they start to fall apart, you're already done. You overcooked
Mm,
them.
yeah,
And also, what I do is so they don't continue cooking. When I take them out and drain them, I stick them in the fridge to cool them down. And they
there you go.
continue to dry out. The water starts to come out of them a little bit, and they don't cook anymore. So, especially if you are on the verge of overcooking them, get them as cold as you can, as fast as you can, so they don't cook anymore.
Yeah, we're not making mashed potatoes here, folks.
Right, right.
Like that. Meathead, what's you're a connoisseur of sides, I know.
um, it's 4th of July, and I can't serve all of my favorites. I have an audience. I think it's really crucial that you think of your audience, like when you choose what beverages.
Sure.
I mean, if it were me, I would do wines and some beers and stuff. But our crowd is into I don't know, hard lemonade and some of these other things. So that's what we serve. And the same thing for sides. Potato salad, slaw. I have two really good slaw recipes on the website. One is the vinegar slaw, and the other is your classic deli slaw with mayonnaise and sour cream blend. And by the way, a lot of people make slaw with just sour cream. I mean, mayonnaise. You get some sour cream in there, maybe even a little
Mm-hmm.
yogurt. Um, and beans. If I'm doing ribs, I'll put a pan under the ribs to catch some drips. And with that drip comes a little of the seasoning off the beans, the rub, little pig powder
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in the
Thank you so
beans is
much.
very nice.
Yeah.
Um, we'll do lemonade. Kind
Corn
of
on
have,
the yeah, corn on the cob. See, I'm sorry, I just happened to see that up there, but that's a
yeah, it's
popular
just not
side.
it's not ready yet for us. And for I'm in the Midwest, North. I'm in the
Uh,
Chicago area. Illinois grows fabulous corn on the cob. There are several of these new hybrids that are just brilliant, and these are not GMOs; they're hybrids. Like you are. You're a hybrid. You're a crossbreed between your mom and dad. When they crossbreed corn, it's different than GMO. Not that I have anything against GMO, but I know a lot of people do. But these new hybrids, there's a hybrid called Marai, which is just awesome. And one of the cool things about them are, I used to have the rule: you start the water boiling before you go pick the corn. Some of these new hybrids will hold their sugar and their carbohydrates in the fridge for days. They're fantastic. So
hmm,
check out some of the new hybrids that are out there. Farmers
hmm.
markets.
We've got a few minutes left here before we go to break. You touched on something, Meathead, beans. I like to consider myself a connoisseur of baked beans.
Oh, okay.
So, one of the things, there are a couple of things that for me to get smiling about baked beans, you have to have in the ingredients. You have to have some onion and you have to have some bacon. Or you can, if you want to mess around with that, you could use side pork or, uh, whatever, but you have to have that in there. And I'm also a guy, if you're going to make baked beans in more of a, I don't know, semi-traditional way, you have to have molasses in it. Yeah,
Yes.
you
Mm-hmm.
have to have molasses in it. You can't just dump some brown sugar in it, or God help you if you ever dump any, like the darker version of Caro syrup in it. That's just not going to work.
Well,
So,
them's Yankee beans, and
yeah.
and I think uh, Leanne will speak to this probably better than I, but in the South, they're not as sweet as they are in the North.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that molasses comes from the fact that the colonies, Boston, used to bring in just boatloads of molasses from the Caribbean, where the sugar cane was grown. 'Cause molasses is made from sugar cane. And there's a famous incident that happened during colonial times, I think, where these massive vats of molasses exploded and they flooded the streets. People drowned and died in the Great Molasses flood. You can Google it. It was pretty impressive.
Hmm.
Wow. I just the other thing I do in mine is I will take some little bit of juice from like some Mazzetti pepperoncini peppers. And it's kind of a pickling juice. I understand that, but it does have a little the
Hmm.
kick of the actual pepper in it. And I just add that. It just to me, it just gives it a very small but very distinctive little bite to it, if you will. And that's just
Mhm.
something I do. Um, and I I I have nothing against canned baked beans. I'm lazy in my old age. I don't want to go soak them overnight and all that stuff. I will, if you want to make beans like that, go buy a number 10 tin of Bush's or B&M baked beans or whatever. If I do that, I actually rinse the sauce off that they come in and then start with the beans from there. So,
Mhm.
Yep.
what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely agree. The sauce that they come in can be salty, can make the meat mushy. I drain them and I drain them and rinse them lightly, but
Hmm.
then I start doctoring them. I put a little barbecue sauce in my beans too.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. You gotta have that. Leanne, what are your little key pieces of advice for making?
I like using different beans, like Great Northern and Pinto, and
Hmm.
just to make it a little different. Definitely bacon. Um, yeah, meathead, like a little barbecue sauce. Of course, pig powder goes in there.
Yeah, of course.
But I don't like my beans super sweet. But I use the dark brown sugar versus light brown because it has some of that molasses undertone to it if I don't have any molasses. But yeah,
Yeah,
we're all on the same page.
yeah. No, I think that's the way you do it. And I cook them for I don't know 3 or 4 hours at least, low and slow, just like we're doing ribs and stuff. But I'll pop them in the oven and doing that. And I when I serve them, I um I put kind of quartered up strips of bacon on the top, and I like to see my baked beans come out with a nice deep brown color on the top of the
Hmm.
bowl, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, that's just the thing with me. And so when they stick a spoon in, they could get a piece of bacon right off the top. They're going to get. I put a lot of bacon in it, so they're going to get that. But I like that. I like that presentation too. Just that nice dark brown kind of almost crispy on the top. That's
Hmm.
that's my deal. So that
Making
and
me hungry.
we can do that. We got a hot dog right behind you there.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Meathead and Leanne here on the Barbecue Nation 4th of July. It's coming up, folks, sooner than you think. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the nation. I'm JT along with Ms. Whippen and Mr. Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. If you go to AmazingRibs.com, first of all, if you're not a member, you should join the Pitmaster Club. I'll do the pitch for you here, Meathead. You
Hmm.
should you should join the Pitmaster Club because it gives you
Thank you.
access to things that you have to be a member to get. If you just go peruse the Amazing Ribs website, there's thousands, literally
Yeah.
thousands of things that Meathead and other his staff have written about. There's recipes, there's ideas, there's videos, all that thing. So, but for the small amount that you pay for the Pit Masters Club every year, I think it's well worth it.
Hmm.
There's the AmazingRibs.com has 2,000 free pages of recipes, product reviews. We have a guy full time who tests grills and smokers. If you're trying to replace your old rust bucket, you need to go see Matt Good and read his reviews. They're detailed, and he calls them the way he sees them. He doesn't know who advertises and doesn't care.
Yeah,
And then thermometer reviews. We have an electrical engineer who tests thermometers. And the Pitmaster Club has 120 broadcast quality instructional videos just for members.
yeah, there you go. See, it's well worth it. All right, so now it's time to talk about our favorite thing, which is, and this segment is not going to be beer, but it's going to be desserts. Um,
Mm.
Up here where we live, of course, 4th of July, standard fare for desserts is like strawberry shortcake because strawberries are in season. They're beautiful. Their local ones are really juicy, plump, sweet, and all that. The way I do shortcake is I make my own uh, very thick whipped cream. I make my own biscuits to do that. I don't use the spongy stuff. I don't like spongy stuff for
Hmm.
some reason.
Mm.
Um, and when I slice up my strawberries and prepare them, I will put them in some water and maybe a little sugar in the water to really bring out the sweet and let it sit for a while. So when you serve them, it's absolutely phenomenal. I think my wife would eat a bowl of the juice and the biscuits, and she doesn't bother with the berries. But what's the Chicago style on that, Meathead?
Um, we too will do strawberry shortcake, but peaches are just coming in season, and I love grilled peaches. The peaches are fruit. They're like grapes in the sense that they are at their best in a cool climate where they get sweet during the daytime, but the temperature cools down and that retains the acidity. So you get this marvelous sugar and acid balance, which all the great wine regions have. And I got to tell you, for that reason, I think Michigan peaches are better than Georgia and South Carolina. Actually, South Carolina has more peaches than Georgia does, but I love them down there. They get very sweet, but they just don't have the crispness of a Michigan peach, and they're fantastic. And they're just around the corner from us. And usually once a year, we make a run down to the fruit belt of Michigan and buy peaches, and they just are spectacular. And they grill up nicely. The key to grilling peaches, two couple of keys. If you can get freestone, that means the stone, the pit, is kind of loose in there. You slice them down the middle, it's easy to pop the pit out. If you get cling peaches, the meat clings to the stone and a little hard to get the seed out. And you want to get the seed out so that when you slice them in half, you can lay that cut side down on the grill where they'll get grill marks. And it's really crucial that you clean that grill grate, both top and bottom. You do not want meat grease or meat grease smoke in your fruits. And then I just grill them until I get a couple of grill marks, which is caramelized sugar. Flip them over, get them cooked on the backside, and they actually have a similar recipe for this. I have a rum sauce that I like to pour over it. It's in my new book, The Meathead Method, and a scoop of ice cream and a little warm rum sauce on the scoop of ice cream and the peaches. It is fantastic. And if you want, you can actually gild the lily. I've been known to paint the peaches with a little amaretto
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
or Captain Morgan.
There you go.
And they absorb a little bit of that flavor and gives it a little, amps it up a little. So that's kind of fun.
Very
Mm.
good. Ms. Whippen.
I'm like this big watermelon basket person during the
Oh,
4th of July. So with all different melons and strawberries and grapes, and you just dig in and get a whole bunch of fruit. I like while grilling, throwing sliced pineapples on the grill. I like that. Um, but we're into some more world, and there's so many variations that makes it fun for the kids to make, s'mores. But um, and of course, you could do a cherry dump cake and throw some blueberries on it and get red, white, and blue action going.
That is true. That is
yeah,
true.
cherries are in. We're getting them in from
Hmm.
both Michigan and the Pacific Northwest, and you can make a marvelous clafouti.
Hmm.
I have fear of flour, so I don't know how to do a clafouti, but I'll bet Leanne knows.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like dessert. But I tend to fill up on everything else, and it's hot outside and you kind of lose your appetite. So it would be nice if ice cream was a little bit more weather worthy, because I would love a big dish of ice cream for the 4th, but it doesn't hold too well.
Well, yes, it is literally cream, By you know,
Yeah.
if you let it sit out too long. No, I think there's a lot of amazing, no pun intended, amazing desserts out there. Uh, the other thing you were talking about cherries, Meathead. One of my favorite things in the world is a really good cherry cobbler.
Hmm.
I love cherry cobbler, especially if it's a crisp top, like that.
Yeah.
I love that. I like, you can do it with blueberries or apples. You can do it with peaches. You can do it with whatever. The other fruit we have an abundance up here is pears. We have a lot of good pears in the Northwest, and I'll take a pear, cut it in half, take the seeds out like that. I'll put it on the grill with a small little dab of butter and some brown sugar and some raisins. Actually, I like raisins. You don't have the
Mm.
raisins are optional, and you can grill it that way. You can put a little cinnamon on top, or a little Grand Marnier, something like that. It turns out
Hmm.
very good. It's more of an adult type dessert, but you know, you can be
Sounds
very
good.
creative with fruit to
Hmm.
make desserts out of it.
For sure.
Yeah. Favorite beverage? Um, I'll start with Leanne.
Well, that's like lemonade. I like fresh lemonade.
I'm with you. I'm
With
with you.
whatever you want to
Fresh
throw in
lemonade.
it. Lemonade.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of beer around, but I
Yeah.
don't, on a hot day, outdoors cooking, really easy for the beer to go to my head.
Yeah.
And normally I'm a wine drinker, but on 4th of July I go for lemonade.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can do that. I can do lemonade.
Margaritas are good too.
Ah,
Yeah.
Nice frozen margarita would be nice.
Yeah, anything like that I think works out good. We used to make this stuff called yucca. Have you guys ever done yucca?
Mm-mm.
You
no.
you take a gallon jar, like an old pickle jar. It's all cleaned out and stuff, and you fill it full of ice, and you take a container of frozen lemonade, you know, and you put that whole big slug of frozen lemonade in there, the condensed version, and then you take a fifth, a fifth of tequila,
Oh,
and you
wow.
pour it in there, and you shake it. Some poor sap has to shake this thing for a better part of an hour, off and on. But when it comes out, it is the most amazing uh, beverage. Word of warning: don't get over exuberant with the yucca because it will yucca you
I
uh,
bet, especially in the heat.
in the heat. But it is an amazing, easy kind of group cocktail, if you will, in the summertime like that. So I I, I don't have a lot of personal experience with it, but I heard about it through the grapevine, you might say. But it's really good.
Mhm.
What's the highlight of your Fourth of July gatherings? Meathead?
The ribs.
That's it.
I mean, I cook a mess of ribs. They go in a big pot. I slice them up into individual bones when they're done and put them in the dining table. And of course, everybody comes for Meathead's famous ribs. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't come at all. They don't like me that much. They just want my ribs.
Leanne?
It's all about the food. That's my favorite part. And then fireworks.
You like fireworks?
I love fireworks.
Yeah.
We don't. We
How
have some
about
sparklers. We don't do fireworks. We're dog lovers, dog owners, and that tends to freak the dogs out. And also, I've been hearing lately about vets who are really freaked out by the explosions.
Right.
how about
We
you, Jeff?
where I live now, and you've been here, it starts a day or two before it kind of warm up drills with the fireworks. But then the 4th of July, it sounds like Da Nang 68 for
Mm.
about 6 hours during the night. It goes till usually about 1 to 1:30 in
Oh
the
God,
morning.
it goes on all night.
Wow.
Yeah. And then because like the 4th is on a Friday this year,
Yeah.
you'll still get more fireworks on Saturday and Sunday. And
Hmm.
it keeps the local constables
Busy.
busy trying to track them down. Last question in this part of the show. We've got some fun stuff coming up in after hours. What's your message to the world or to the United States, Leanne, for the 4th of July this year? This is a little different show, but
This is a toughie because there's a lot happening right now. I mean, I
yeah,
won't even tell you what I just read on my phone, but yeah, it's just, everybody stay safe, be mindful of um, our military and how they're protecting us. And yeah, just, I don't know.
yeah.
Just
Well,
that's about
interesting
it.
times.
Yeah.
I am the polar opposite of Elon Musk in the sense that I stay out of politics. I own a small business. I have employees. It is my responsibility to my fiscal um, responsibility, fiduciary responsibility to not piss people off. I have very strong political views, and I wish I could voice them publicly. I have always had strong political views. I have never missed an election, even local,
Mhm.
but I keep it to myself.
I do
And I
too.
and I
I,
think Elon Musk demonstrated the risk in putting your politics out there. He was running very profitable, beloved companies, admired by many people, and when he got involved in politics, he pissed a lot of people off, justifiably or not.
right.
And I try to steer clear of it. I do occasionally dabble in food politics when the government passes laws related to food and diet
Right.
and health or something. I will occasionally comment on that, but it's strictly nonpartisan. It's strictly from a culinary basis. And I try to steer clear of those discussions at the 4th of July because there's a variety of opinions. But I got to tell you one thing. I have my message screen up here, and the phone rang a few minutes ago. I had to hang up on it before I could take it. But my brother in law, my sister's brother, she has two. One of them is politically the vast opposite of me. And we have a daily back and forth debate, and it is vehement, and it is polarized, and it is strong. And every time I see him, I hug him and I love him to death because he's a nice man. And I will not let politics get in the way. And if I had any message about the 4th of July, it would be that. There's going to be people who disagree with you politically. Love them anyhow.
Yep.
Mm,
I couldn't have really have said that better
right.
myself. So, for everybody watching and listening, thank you. We hope you have a wonderful 4th of July with family and friends. Enjoy the festivities. Don't forget you can go to pigpowder.com for
Mhm.
the above aforementioned pig powder. I recommend it. And also to amazingribs.com. If you can swing it, join the Pitmasters Club there. Meathead's new book, The Meathead Method, is out. And for me, I'm gonna go to the golf course. Anyway, we're gonna jump into after hours here. And so for everybody out there, go out, have a good time, have fun on the 4th. Remember our motto, turn it, don't burn it, but most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody. Hey, everybody, welcome to After Hours. I'm JT along with Leanne Whippen and Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. This is the second part of the 4th of July show. And as usual, we have Meathead in for the holidays, we might say. So we've got some fun stuff here. Little more trivia for you.
Mm.
Uh, When was I'm just going to ask you a couple fun questions, and then we'll get on to the other stuff.
I
Uh,
love your trivia questions. They always stump me.
Yeah, me
okay.
too.
What year was the very first 4th of July fireworks show put on, and where?
Oh, God. I'm going to guess it was surrounding one of the World's Fairs. How about the 1893 World's Fair?
Okay,
I'm
Leanne.
gonna say it was earlier than that. I'm gonna say 1850 New York.
Well, you were both only off by about 100 years.
You're
It
going to
was
tell
in,
me it was Fort Sumter, wasn't it?
yeah, no, it was Philadelphia in 1777.
Oh, no
Oh, they didn't
kidding.
waste any time.
Yeah, yeah. That and
I'm surprised they had the know-how, but
and you both know which two presidents actually died on the 4th of July, right?
no.
Meathead?
I'm sorry.
Which two presidents actually passed away on the 4th of July? Long time ago.
Gosh, I knew.
Was it
I
Lincoln? Did
used to
he
know this,
die?
and I don't.
No, it was John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. And
Oh,
then
who had an infamous rivalry?
yes, yes. And
Hmm.
then James Monroe actually died 5 years later.
Hmm.
And because they died in 1826 and Monroe died in 1831.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So there you go. Okay, for something fun, we thought we'd do a little different here. We'll get back to some trivia in a minute. What's the oldest item in your refrigerator?
Oh, ho, ho. Um, my refrigerator is a blast. I'm a condiment guy. I have
Mhm.
mustards going back to the Civil War. I mean, I have pickled corn, which I have no reason to save, but there's is still a jar of it in there. I uh, oh gosh.
Yeah, I'm a
Um,
condiment freak, but I would say, and shame on me for not dating it, but my bacon grease tub.
oh, I have one. No, I have a bacon grease jar and a tallow jar, and the tallow jar is a full quart. I don't know what I'm going to do with a quart of tallow.
Sell it.
Yeah, they sell it now in the stores. I was at my
They sell it on
barbecue store
Amazon.
recently, and they have tallow jar. They have spray tallow.
You could
Yeah,
make it Meathead's Private Reserve
There you
Tallow.
go.
that's
Get
right.
something like that.
Aged.
Yes.
Aged.
What's the one song you want to hear when you first get into your car and turn on the radio? You know, Meathead a few weeks ago told me, he goes, I hate after hours. He goes, it's like a test. And I told
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. It's tough.
Well, I'm, you know, my the era in which I listened to music most was when I was in college. And that was the late 60s and early 70s. So all that early stuff, Grand Funk,
oh yeah.
Hendrix, Joplin, those that's my music. And unbiased statement, it's the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbiased.
Well, it's true. That's when I got my first radio gig, which was in the 70s, and I was a lot younger then, but that's the stuff I played, like that. And that's why when I get in my car, I turn on Sirius XM to channel 25 or 26, which is classic rewind and another one of the classic rocks, and they play a lot of that stuff. That's what I usually listen to. So, okay, Leanne, what song do you want to hear when you jump in the Kia?
I would like to hear AC/DC Back in Black.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, who name an unsung hero of the barbecue world or the food world?
Hmm.
um, I'm gonna mention someone, but he's not unsung, but he's unsung in the barbecue. Kent Rollins.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Kent is the OG truck wagon cook, and he is not strictly, grilling and barbecue. He does an awful lot of stuff in cast iron. But this guy, he actually occasionally loads up the chuck wagon and follows the drovers and the cattle on the trail. He cooks for the riders. Then he comes back. He's out of Tulsa area, I think, and he's got a brilliant YouTube channel. And he does grill and he does smoke, but he doesn't always do it the way barbecue people do it. But he has bazillions of followers. He's done several books. So he really can't go in the unsung category, but he's not well known necessarily in the barbecue world.
Right.
And I just love him.
Okay.
His books are wonderful. He's got a great sense of humor, big handlebar mustache, cowboy hat, the whole 9 yards.
There you go.
Do you guys
Yeah.
know him?
I
I've
know of him.
yeah, I've never spoken to him, but I've read his stuff, watched his stuff, and
You got to watch some of his videos. In fact, actually, he just cooked a recipe out of my book, and did it perfectly. Marvelous.
excellent. Okay, Leanne.
I think there's too many to mention. I can't even think. You know, there's so many cooks that are not on TV that can make fabulous food and they aren't YouTube sensations, you know. So kudos to all those people that make everybody happy. But of course, I'll have to be impartial and say my dad.
Okay. Okay.
I think I've told this story on this show before, but the first competition I ever judged was the Jack Daniels
Uh-huh.
International Championship.
That was your first comp?
My first competition.
Well, you had to
And
win a comp to get there.
I was judging. I wasn't cooking.
Oh, judging. Okay,
First
gotcha.
time I was judging, and my table captain was some guy named Jim Tabb.
Yeah, that would be my dad.
That would be
Yeah.
your dad, and
Mhm.
he was very cool, and I got to meet him and talk to him and strike up conversation and learn a thing or two.
Yeah.
And I will never forget my first table captain.
He he was a note taker. I have a huge, like it's probably 8 inches deep of all the notes that he took over the years, albeit from people that he ran into in foreign countries and back kitchens, all little things that he learned along the way. And it's really very interesting.
Now you
And
have me worried. If you find my name in there, burn it.
how about you, Jeff? Jeff?
Jeff, how about you?
I'm thinking. Um,
It's hard to think of people that aren't known. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's
yeah,
going to usually be like a friend or, you know what I mean?
yeah. And there's again, I'll revert back to where I live, and Leanne, you've been here. We have a lot of Hispanic population, and there's a lot of small restaurants here. And some of the people that cook in those little hole in the walls are these elderly Mexican or Spanish ladies, and they make this phenomenal
Mm-hmm.
food. You don't even know their names,
Mm-hmm.
but they just like you'll sit down and you know whatever you order, and it's never their food is never like I'll have a cheese enchilada and a pork taco or something like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's these marvelous plates of food, chili Colorado or something like that, and it's just but you never know their name. But they've
Mm-hmm.
probably got more history and family recipes and what they have on the menu there, like that. And
It's
so, like,
probably all in their head too, the
yeah, yeah,
recipes.
yeah, it's nothing's written down and they make it and you're not going to see them on Food Channel or Food
Mm-hmm.
Network or anything like that. They're just there. That's why I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of scratching my head about that. I probably should have thought of an answer after I wrote the question, but like that. Okay, let's go back to barbecue just for a second. And Leanne, you can probably attest to this more because you've been more in the comp world. What's one thing you wish barbecue people would not do?
Cut their big pieces of meat to fit the box just because that's part of the comp, like a brisket, cutting it down to the size of a 9 by 9 box. That just kills me. Cutting out the money muscle. Just take the big piece of meat and cook it.
Yeah. I love that.
I
Well,
hate the modification on meat these days in comps. So that's one thing.
Meathead.
I have a pretty strong pet peeve here to
Oh
get on my
boy.
Oh,
hobby
here we
horse.
go.
Yeah. Uh, your listeners who've heard us before may know that I had a career in wine before I switched to solid food in the year 2000. I was on the USA wine tasting team, and I was a wine buyer for a chain of stores. I was listed as one of the 10 most influential people in the world of wine. And I am watching the barbecue world turn into the wine world in the sense that there is a strong snobbery running through the veins of many barbecue people who, I mean, right now, what's going on in the barbecue world is really exciting. I see Asian flavors and Spanish flavors entering
Mhm.
barbecue. There's a barbecue joint in Fort Worth where he's from Texas and she's from Ethiopia, and the Ethiopian flavors are there in her food. In Atlanta, he's from Georgia and she's from Korea, and the Korean flavors are there. Bill Durney, whom we all know and love, highly creative, doing marvelous things with nuts and stuff in barbecue. This is the trend, and there is a core group of know nothings, knuckle draggers, who get very upset and say, "That's not barbecue." And to them, barbecue is just ribs and pork and
Mhm.
brisket. And there's this group in the I think it's North Carolina, called Real Barbecue. And if it's not cooked over logs, they don't consider it barbecue. I mean, this is just asinine. And it is just silly, and it's childish, and it shows they don't understand culinary. It's called the culinary arts because it's an art, and
Mhm.
arts grow by creativity and experimentation. And this snobbery, I run into it, and I run into it most frequently in the competition community, because that's what they cook in competitions, is the classics. And I love the barbecue canon. I mean, my ribs are pretty straight down the line, standard ribs, but I also love Chinese ribs. In fact, that was the first place I fell in love with ribs, was in a
Me
Chinese
too.
restaurant when I was about 10
Mhm.
Yep.
years old.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So that it concerns me, that there's this snobbery that I saw in the wine world, and it's there. Wine people will deny it, but it's there, and
Mhm.
it's creeping into the barbecue world, and I really don't like it.
Mhm.
I would agree with you on that because I think we have to open our minds and look at other culinary cuisines, not just geographically, but the creativity behind it. And yeah, there I love, like you were saying, the barbecue classics, the ribs, the brisket, whatever. But uh the antithesis of that, the only thing that kind of irritates me sometimes is when they try to do these like smash burgers that are a foot and a half tall, and they're putting everything but the kitchen sink on it, like that. That I'm not a fan of. But
Oh
overall,
man,
but
I didn't mean to interrupt, but you just struck a nerve. I mean, on social media, we see these hamburgers that are just
Mhm.
disgusting.
yeah, yeah, that's not a hamburger. That's a, I don't know what you want to call it,
It's an
but
abomination, is what it is.
the barbecue, if you're going to do the barbecue competition world, and they've got their rules and regs, and Leanne is more familiar with it than anybody, I get that. But if you're going to be cooking in the backyard, why not try to make some Korean ribs, or why not try to make some barbacoa or whatever? And I don't care. Experiment. That's what makes life good. Especially in the food world, we have a lot of creative people, like the two people I'm talking here with today,
Ah,
and it's I think you're missing the boat if you don't open up to do that. That's my little soapbox stance there.
Mhm.
Um, really.
Well, I want to add, if I can, a small advertisement. My
Sure.
new book, The Meathead Method. The first book I did covered all the classic barbecue dishes: ribs, chicken, pulled pork, and so on, steaks, burgers. This new book, I try to get outside the box. There's a lot of Asian ingredients and Spanish influence and tweaks to the classics. Although I have tried to replicate the way competition cooks do cook, so that if you're thinking about competing or you'd like to try competition ribs, I'll give you that recipe in the new book. But a great deal of the book is outside the box, and it's fun, and it's, I think, where barbecue is going next.
Yeah, I think it's great.
That's why it's on Anne's coffee table.
That's right.
It made the coffee table cut at the
If
Whippin
the
right.
household.
bookshelf is full, that's probably
No, 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 no. Okay, last question. And Leanne, you do this more than I think Meathead and I do at this point. When you're on the road a lot, traveling,
Mhm.
what's one place that you always look forward to going and why?
Well, you travel to all different destinations, so that's a hard thing to. I try to. All right, like I was just in Philly. All right, so I try to eat what Philly's known for. You know, the
Right.
cheesesteaks or whatever. So wherever my destination is, and like so now I'm headed to Detroit, and Meat has me all totally hyped up to get dogs there. You know,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
try to eat the food that they're known for. So that's usually my goal. And
Yes.
you know, or go to a historical restaurant. You know, it might not be the best food, but just to you know, learn about the history and see the pictures on the wall, and you know,
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I like to do when I travel. I don't try to go to the top restaurant, you know, because it's a Michelin star. I like the hole in the wall dives. I try to talk to people that live where I'm going to get the inside scoop on those little sleeper places.
Yep.
I'm exactly the same way.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And by the way, I nowadays used to just hit all the barbecue joints because I had to learn. Nowadays, it's anything but barbecue.
Mhm.
I really I want to eat seafood on the coast. And by the way, Leanne, Detroit dogs are often served with a ground meat chili, and it's
Oh.
usually made from beef heart.
Oh.
Yep.
You
Hey, the
you
heart is
can't
just a
tell.
muscle,
That's
Yeah.
all right.
and it's
I
a
can do
very
it.
tough muscle, and so it's best when ground.
Yeah.
I can handle it.
Yes,
My
you can.
my
Yeah, it's
favorite.
very typical. And of course, don't forget Detroit pizza while you're in town.
Of course. That's a must.
That's a
you
must.
This
you
is my
touched
first
on.
time to Detroit, so I'm actually looking forward to the culinary side of
Yeah.
things over there.
I've been there a few times. It's I always enjoyed the trip and enjoyed the food. I
Hmm.
like well we used to call them dark smoky bars, but you can't smoke anymore, and that's fine. Uh, but I like what you two are talking about. I like to find a place, and if they have a restaurant and it's got a little bar section in the back, and it's I like to go sit in there, unless somebody's in there raising hell, and talk to the waitress and say, "What do you recommend? You know, what's the
Yeah,
local?
that's a good
What's
thing too.
you know?" I do that.
Oh, I always ask the staff, and I rarely have been steered wrong.
Yeah, yeah, that's my favorite thing too. All right, we're gonna wrap this up, and Meathead, thank you as always, my friend.
Always to be with you guys. You guys are the
Yes, you
best.
too. Happy
This is
4th.
always fun.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
Leanne, safe travels up to. Leanne's
Yes.
doing the LPGA tournament, the Dow in Detroit. Big event
Yeah.
for on the golf world, and I
Hmm.
think she's going to have a lot of fun. So
She's
Yeah.
not doing it as a golfer. She's going to be cooking for the golfers.
cooking,
Yeah.
yeah, cooking.
I
She's
wish
got
I was
golf shoes though.
golfing. I wish I was golfing. Yeah.
Are you
She's
a golfer?
I do like to golf. I'm not very good, but I do enjoy it.
well, see
Well,
there
as
you.
we all know, our host Jeff is a renowned
Avid golfer.
Yeah,
golfer and commentator and interviewer on the subject.
Leanne has really high end golf shoes that we got her. a year
I
ago.
do. I do. And
So,
I've been told that you're supposed to wear those when you walk a tournament. Golf shoes, is that true?
uh,
You can,
you
I guess.
can. It's, something comfortable
Yeah.
because it's a lot of walking. But yeah, you do that. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a great 4th of July. To our listeners, I hope you all have a 4th of July. Remember our motto: turn it, don't burn it. Be safe, be kind, and just smile. That's it. Smile. Have a good time. We'll see y'all
Bye
later.
bye, everyone.